We're here on a Monday afternoon in front of the Scotiabank Theater. This is Jake and Jacob.
I'm Jacob.
And we're about to see Hereditary. Let's go see it.
Movie review.
We just finished watching Hereditary.
I know my mom would be very touched and probably a little suspicious. My mother was a very secretive and private woman.
Hereditary is a horror film. It's been getting a pretty good buzz from what Jacob has told me. I'm a big wimp, so it's hard for me to review a horror film sort of subjectively because the whole time I'm watching it, I'm kind of not watching it. You know what I mean? I'm into it. I'm attracted to the horror genre, but I get so spooked and stressed out sometimes that I'm just not looking at the screen. But Jacob's a lot more experienced with horror films, so I'll let him give his professional thoughts.
I went to this movie a little blind. I want to say I tried to avoid everything. I heard about snippets of this movie. It's been kind of talked about. Obviously, as a fan of a horror movie, I kind of I've done a little research on this movie's name. I kept seeing it. I've seen the actors. This movie, Hereditary, I didn't want to hear too much about it because it's horror movies. Whenever you see a trailer, I just saw they just released a new Halloween trailer, and I feel cool. I just seen the whole movie, and it's a bad thing with just trailers in general. But with horror movies, I feel they kind of show way too much already. So I wanted to avoid it for a movie that, for this movie in particular. And when I went to go see it, man, it's kind of like what I'm doing right now. Not much. This movie is not much. We're going to have different opinion. You came out talking a bit more positive than I did. And I think it's because maybe I am desensitized to these type of movies. There's a lot of things I want to say my pros. There is some pros. I love this movie does not rely on tropes. Jump scares. Nope. When it gets near the end, I was really expecting this movie to hit this 10 out of 10 bizarre, supernatural, almost bullshit, almost kind of weird movie, kind of like Mama did that. But this movie actually it built up. The weirdness, you kind of go on this like that roller coaster when you're kind of going up a bit. Then it's just it builds this tension. You get a little bit of weirdness early, a little bit of supernatural early, but then it kind of fades off a bit, and it gives you ththese little details, almost like a video game, these little books, these little pictures, little symbols throughout, but slowly, and you're like me there. I'm trying to pick this movie. What is this about? It's about the boy. It's about the son. It's about this. What's going on? And when things happen, I do get generally shocked and surprised about things they're doing with this movie. Those are my pros. My downs is the movie takes a long time. There's pacing issues. The acting and directing, I think, is phenomenal. I believe this is the director's first big movie, and there's some really cool things he does with the mom. She makes these model homes. So these really cool shots he gets with is it a model home or is it the actual scene? Those are cool. I think I just wanted to be scared more, and when it came to the ending, I thought that was cool, but I thought how it got there, I could have slept. I want to talk more about it, but I really, really want to give it to you because you're going to have a difference. I think your opinion is going to be very different from mine.
But I thought the pacing was good because the movie is 2 hours long, and for the first hour, I was just stressed because there's nothing jumping out at scaring you or anything that's very directly scaring you, but there's a vibe, there's a mood that's being set. There's the score, right? The music underneath is really eerie, and just the imagery. There's these models, these imagery, the way the camera, the way the shots are done. A lot of very wide shots of the whole house, not just a part of it, and action happening, and a lot of sort of pregnant pauses too. And so, without directly scaring you, it kind of injects this very eerie feeling. I'm talking very loosely. I'm not really talking about a plot or what actually happens, because like Jacob said about trailers and with horror movies, you can't really say much about a horror movie. You kind of need to go in blind. You kind of just need to see oh, I want to see this or I don't want to see this, because I don't know, it's more effective that way when you're not expecting things. But yeah, just the build up, and I am always interested when movies have an element of possession or about ghosts and stuff, because every movie handles it differently, and I kind of like how this movie did it. You don't get a lot of your sort of shitty CG effects or like, oh, like this is obviously a ghost moment happening. It's a lot more subtle for the most part. And when it's not subtle, it's very not subtle. There's like some imagery that's like a bit disturbing. Not anything we haven't seen before in like Saw movies or something, but considering the beginning of it is pretty tame.
Yeah, I think this movie, it's well made, it's full. Like I said, I can give this movie almost a 10 out of 10 for all that other stuff, but I think for me as a viewer, I'm not going to rewatch this movie anytime soon or maybe ever.
Yeah.
And I don't think it has a lot of talking points on my end besides the camera work, directing, and acting. Like the girl who plays the mom, there is one particular scene where she's crying and she's grieving, and that's probably the first time I felt uncomfortable. Like, I was really uncomfortable the whole time because it's so real. This movie feels really real. So when the creepy things and scary things happen, it does turn you a bit because it felt the dialogue and everything, especially the camera work, the slow turn. It's very realistic. So overall, I'm gonna review this movie, and I feel terrible.
Remove it from like a horror fan's point of view.
I know. As a film, this is a really well-made film. Everything hits the check marks for me. I just think maybe at the end there could have been a little bit more cutting, a little bit more stitching. Like I said, I want to review this movie not on a bias, but what I think was made here, and I'm going to give it a nice solid 7.8. I'm going to give it a 7.8. There's a lot to like, and my dislikes are just biased.
Yeah, I think horror movies are like kind of like thrill rides, and if you're someone who doesn't go on them often, then you're going to be more excited about like the more scarier parts. Whereas if someone who experiences it all the time, you need to be wowed in other ways, right? So I thought the movie was good. I would say its only flaw from my perspective is that it's not memorable enough to the point where I want to rewatch it. I would recommend it to people to watch, but I don't feel the need to go back and be like, oh, remember Hereditary? That's a good one. You know what I mean? It's not like The Exorcist in that way or something like that. But because of everything else it does well, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. This has been Jake and Jacob.
And I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you next time.
Ah, look at that. You made it to the end of the video.
Hey, now that you're here, you can click on one of our older videos.
We've done some reviews on this and that, and I particularly like this.
I like the one on the left, to be honest.
Oh, well, we always got that thing in the middle. It looks pretty cool. It's one of those subscribe buttons.
Anyways, thanks for making it to the end.
Bye-bye.